We switched from iPhone to Android, and we wanted to see what it was like to break free from the Apple ecosystem, jump into the world of Android, and try something new. The journey had its upsides. Oh cool, you can resize it around the screen. And its fair share of hard times.
Where are my passwords?
So sit back as we take you on a month-long experience of switching from iPhone to Android. We're taking you on a journey from iPhone to Android, and to fairly represent the switch, we've got myself, a tech reviewer who's used to changing phones and ecosystems, and Eric, not a tech reviewer, a lifelong iPhone user, and we'll take you through the real-time process of what we expected diving into this experiment, and that all starts with first impressions. So I currently have the iPhone 13 mini, and I am switching to the Galaxy Z Flip 7.
The Samsung... Do you know what... I have an iPhone 16 Pro and I'm switching to the Samsung S25 Edge.
I think I'm most excited about just a completely different experience. You know, iPhone, they say every single year is exactly the same. With Android, you get a lot more innovation. With the Z Flip series, you're gonna get this flip screen, but still an ultra portable form factor like I liked on the 13 mini. So that just makes a lot of sense for me, and I'm excited to see how it changes.
I think the slightly larger screen and thinner phone as well.
I think I'm most concerned about not being able to use things in the Apple ecosystem like the Apple Watch that I'm using right now. I'm actually doing another comparison between the Apple Watch and the Whoop and a Fitbit, so how that all works while using Android, I don't know. We're gonna have to figure it out.
Probably the way the two ecosystems don't really work together. So the difference between how I manage my passwords and how I stream music and things like that.
The other thing I'm gonna miss is iMessage, something that I use every single day and I love. I know we've got RCS, but I'm just not that excited about it in comparison to iMessage.
Let's see how it goes.
So an experience this long and this intense needs some ground rules to keep it fair. Eric and I have a lot of different devices in various ecosystems, and so the following were a requirement of the switch. Number one, we got to choose any modern Android phone we wanted, but it must be our daily driver used for everything we use a phone for. Number two, we cannot use an iPhone for any task throughout the month. Number three, we can't use iCloud.com to access our Apple ecosystem, our notes, reminders, or anything else. Number four, we can still use Apple products like a MacBook, but we can't use an iPad or an iPhone to access iOS features. Number five, we share real-time highlights and struggles throughout the process. So with all of that said, let's get started with the switch. From the beginning, we used the Smart Switch app. It's come a long way since the last time I used it because now it transfers your message history, contacts, calendars, photos, videos, notes, and select device settings. Now it even also matches your apps with ones that are equivalent on the Google Play Store and installs them automatically on your phone.
I noticed that a lot of the apps I had on my iPhone were very easy just to transfer over, and the Samsung switcher was able to move everything over for me. I had to download only a couple apps that didn't get transferred.
It is incredible, and it makes it way easier than it used to be to switch. But it's not everything. So here's where we run into our first roadblock.
One thing that confused me a little bit was how many app stores there were. I noticed there's a Samsung store and a Play Store, and sometimes apps are asking you which store you wanted to download that app from. It's the same app on both stores. And also I'm noticing that both have separate updates for apps as well.
The one thing that I'm having trouble figuring out is the Reminders app. Ideally, I want something that's going to sync natively with the Apple Reminders app so I can keep using that on Mac. But if that's not the case and I need to use separate apps, then the things that have been suggested to me and based on my research are the TickTick app, which seems more involved than I actually need here, or the simpler Microsoft To Do app. So I'm going to try those out. Let me know in the comments if you guys have one or you prefer one, or if there's anything else you're using between Android and Mac that makes the integration a lot easier. Would really appreciate it. So we've just switched everything over. Me from my iPhone 13 mini to the Galaxy Flip 7, Eric from the iPhone 16 Pro to the S25 Edge. Two very different phones and very different from iPhone. So before we dive into the ecosystem, what was our first impressions of the phones?
Definitely that the Samsung S25 is much lighter. I'm also noticing how thin it is.
So it's day one with the Flip 7. I'm super excited about this phone. First impressions, it seems a lot thinner this year. Like I've tested these for the last couple of years. I like that it's slim, but most importantly, the bezels and the padding around the screen are a lot thinner, and then that makes it seem a lot more premium and less clunky than other years before. And then I don't know if you can tell here, but the crease is pretty much non-existent. So you can feel it as you're scrolling slightly if you push hard, but visibly to the eye, you cannot see a crease anymore. So what they've put in there to make that happen is just awesome. And then of course, like how functional is the larger screen on the front? That's something I'm excited to test out. And do I even need to open my phone ever, or can I just get by with this massive front screen now? Time will tell.
The screen looks great. The speed of installing apps and things as I'm starting to set it up, it's all going very well so far.
The biggest change with this switch is that we both relied on Apple's apps, calendars, notes, reminders, passwords, and they're all fantastic, but they don't play nicely when it comes to leaving the ecosystem.
So I've been using Samsung Pass. I did notice that I was missing some passwords and realized those were in my shared passwords that weren't transferred over. I've noticed I was either not being prompted to enter a password when I was in a password field, or I'd be prompted but then would have to search through all of my passwords manually to find that password.
Everybody gives a lot of credit to the Apple native apps, and I gotta say that I agree with that. They look great, they function well, but I gotta say the Samsung ones are actually coming a really long way over these past couple of years. The Reminders app just looks sleek, very simple to use. It actually does sync with Microsoft To Do, so if I add something there, it automatically pulls into Samsung Reminders. The Notes app automatically pulled in all of my notes from Apple, which was incredible, makes it so much easier of a transition here. But then I noticed the app actually has a lot more customizations than Apple does. For example, you can actually completely change that taskbar at the top and all of the different actions that you have there. And then you get to Google Messages. I know this isn't a Samsung app. Yes, we've got read receipts, we've got typing indicators, message reactions just like on iPhone, but then you get things like smart follow-ups. So if I send a message to someone asking a question, they don't respond within 24 hours. I get a notification and a prompt to follow up with that person. And it's one of those things that just popped up and I was like, this makes so much sense, and Apple should be bringing this to their ecosystem as well. But it's been really great. If there's anything that you guys like about Google Messages over Apple, let me know that in the comments. So that's the apps, but let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the ecosystem. So we're an Apple family. We have HomePods in every room. We have Sonos speakers and surround. We have smart curtains to automate opening and closing the blinds. We have the Ecobee thermostat. We literally have iPads mounted on the walls to control a lot of these things around our house. So what happens when you switch to Android?
It was so easy to transfer over all of my calendars, notes, and reminders, but the problem I had was keeping them in sync between MacBook and my Android phone.
So generally I would say that all of these apps have their own app on Android, even if it's not as seamless as using the native home app or one central kind of unified place. But there's a couple of things that just didn't work at all. For example, HomePods, can't use them in any capacity whatsoever. They don't show up as something you can cast to, which we knew, but they also don't show up in the Apple Music app as something you can cast to, which I really thought that they would. So we basically have to just rely on speaking to them and using the voice assistant in order to play anything. Otherwise, we just can't use them at all. And that really is a problem because Apple's assistant is not great at like multi-room audio. So if I tell it to play somewhere else, sometimes it's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Just not an ideal situation. And one thing I'm definitely missing so far. So a little side note here from the video, I've switched to an Android a bunch of times in the past. There's a set list of things that I do to make my experience better every single time that Eric didn't know about. So I thought I'd add it in here. Let me know if these are new to you. First, I installed Gboard instead of the Samsung keyboard. It is better in every single way. It is more responsive, it has more customization. Do yourself a favor, download this, set it as your default. Next in settings, go to display, and if your phone has 120 Hz refresh rate, sometimes it's available and it's just turned off at default. Go into settings, go to display, turn it on. Finally, enable developer mode by going to settings, about, and tap build number a bunch of times until it pops up saying developer options enabled. Then in settings, go down to developer options and set the window animation, transition animation, and animator duration to 0.5 times. This will literally make your phone twice as fast as it was before. It'll just immediately feel more snappy. It is the first thing that I do, and Eric even noticed a difference when I did this to his phone, so check that out. So by now we've been using our phones for a little while, right? We are getting used to Android, and we've got a lot of thoughts on what it's like to use in your day-to-day life. Like for instance, the notification sounds. iPhone apps, all have their own notification sounds. By default, your messages sound different than your mail. And even third-party apps have their own notifications, which adds this layer of like not needing to pick up your phone to know what every single notification is. The default on Android for some reason is just that every app has the same tone.
All of my messages and in-app notifications were coming through as the same sound, so we had to go through and change the settings to separate them.
And you can go in, turn on notification categories, and then set individual app notifications, which I did, but it's a lot of work. But also, I'm not used to what these notifications sound like, so when I get a text, it doesn't immediately pique my attention, which honestly has been really a nice vacation from my phone, to be honest. I'm also wearing a bunch of watches right now for an upcoming fitness tracker review. None of them get texts on my Android phone, so it has been really, really nice just having the silence. Something we both agree on here is that Android Auto has been awesome. The UI is more zoomed out, so it actually fits a lot more content than you're used to with Apple, but the buttons are still big enough to press. I just feel like it makes so much better use of the display in my car, which is awesome. Also, one bizarre thing here is that Google Maps seems to just suggest obscure things like this school in Burlington that I've never even been to, but it's confident that I want to go there all of the time, and I have no idea why. So the green versus blue bubble debate. Full disclosure, I fully expected this to be the worst part of the Switch, but as it turns out, when you're the green bubble, you don't really have to worry about anything. We now have our CS on iPhone, meaning that you can get typing indicators, we get read receipts, we get message reactions just like on an iPhone, and we can change the message color to anything we want. The only actual downside here I'm finding is that typing on this keyboard, even though I changed it, is harder and more disruptive than this whole iMessage versus RCS debate. But that's just me. Let me know in the comments if you also find the iOS keyboard better and if you really care that much about iMessage. So this whole video is about switching ecosystems, but Samsung themselves has a lot of unique features. But there's so many other features that I wanted to see if Eric, again, not a power user, has heard of or used any of them or even cares about them. We are going through a bunch of like Samsung features that are unique to their ecosystem, and I want to see if you, who is not super familiar with them, know what any of them are and have used any of them. Ready? Okay, circle to search.
I have not used Circle to Search.
Do you know what it is?
Yes. I didn't find a need for it.
Okay. Now brief.
I don't know what it is, but is it news?
Kind of, yeah. It pops up on your lock screen, today's Outlook, or
Oh, yes.
a little widget.
I did see it, and I
Never tapped on it?
I found it a little bit annoying coming up at the bottom of the screen all the time, and I was like, what's this? And
This is going really
I
well.
eventually turned it off.
Okay. Gemini Live.
I do not know what that is.
Okay. Audio eraser.
No.
Don't know what it is? Okay. Auto trim.
I'm guessing it's a video editing.
Yeah, you select a bunch of clips and then you choose if you want long or short form, and then it auto stitches them together, and you still have to like reorder them the way you want, but it's basically like a quick way to trim a bunch of stuff.
So I found a few of the apps that I regularly use are just a little bit less responsive, or sometimes they're laggy, and I just didn't get that when I was using my iPhone.
So the only thing that I'm really missing here, no matter what I've tried, is the Apple Reminders app. I know I talked about this earlier. It's something that I've used for years. I love it. I'm used to it. I like the way that I can intuitively type in a line and it automatically sets a time or an hourly reminder without having to like jump into a bunch of settings. So what I have been using is the Microsoft To Do app. I find it's the most seamless that I can use. On Mac with its own native app. On Samsung I can use that, or I can use the Samsung Reminders app and it will sync between it. It is just not the same, and it's the only thing, because I use it every single day for everything, that I really just, it makes me want to switch back so bad. Again, let me know if you guys have anything else that you would use in place of it, but that's just what I found that's working so far, and the only thing that's kind of making me want to switch back.
I've also had issues syncing between my Samsung phone and my MacBook, so it's just made things a little bit more difficult. I've had to do a little more work to keep my devices in sync. Yes, I will be switching back to my iPhone. I was debating staying with the Samsung phone, but really it's just that sync between devices that's not working for my day-to-day use.
So I think overall, the ecosystem you stick with is the one that you should stick with. Apple is an awesome ecosystem. Samsung is awesome with its own ecosystem. And really, it's when you try to switch from one to the other that your life just kind of gets blown up into shambles. But I've really enjoyed this test, and I guess the easiest way I can describe it is Apple, very closed ecosystem, extremely polished. Android, very open ecosystem, less refined. Now, if you want to use a bunch of different brands, Samsung, Google, various Windows PC brands, Android is absolutely your best bet. It's going to work with all of them. If you like anything Apple, you should stick with everything Apple. That's just, it makes sense. For now, I have to switch back to the iPhone for an upcoming iOS 26 video and new phone launches, so stay tuned for those. But in the meantime, check out the longer reviews of the S25 Edge or the Galaxy Flip 7 on the channel now. Also stay tuned for this fitness tracker comparison. I'm wearing like 3 of these all of the time. I'm doing it for you. Please watch it. Leave a comment if you've enjoyed this video and how we're trying new things out with our editing. Shout out to Eric, who's making his YouTube debut with this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.